So once again, welcome to the Unshakable Foundation meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome JW, who's come to share for 40 minutes on the topic of 12 traditions in relationships. For about 40 minutes, after which we'll open up for the Q&A portion of the meeting. So with that, Jay, it's over to you. Thank you so much.
Yay. Hey, y'all. My name is Jay Westbrook. I'm an alcoholic. And here in Tupelo, Mississippi, I'm sober today by God's mercy and the practice of the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. For shorthand purposes, I say AA, I say alcoholic. I'm a hope to die drug addict and alcoholic and qualify for multiple programs that I don't go to because they're all the same steps. But I'm OG in Cocaine Anonymous. Cocaine Anonymous started in Los Angeles in 1983, 82, November of 82. And first meeting I ever walked into was in a bar on the Sunset Strip called Carlos and Charlie's. It was a Cocaine Anonymous meeting. It was December 2nd, 1988, and I've been sober ever since. So I was in Cocaine Anonymous in the early days in Los Angeles. My wife is a hope to die drug addict and alcoholic too. She came in through Cocaine Anonymous and stayed sober once she stood up on my 90th day. She stood up and stayed sober from then on. And it's very possible. I want to welcome Mark. I want to welcome Steve and say that y'all don't ever have to drink or use again for the rest of your life, even if you want to. And I've certainly wanted to at times. I just haven't done it. Ran out of a burning building with my ass on fire and haven't run back in yet. Wow. Yay, Jay. Amazing. And I'm so grateful for the life I've created. I'm going to be talking a lot about Nancy. So if you all look at your screens and you can see who Nancy was, that's Nancy, my wife, stunningly beautiful, kinder than she is beautiful. And also was absolutely head over heels in love with Cocaine Anonymous. And we we're both very active within the fellowship. So I'm old because you couldn't look at me and tell. You needed me to tell you that I'm old. So it was Friday night, June 7th, 1968. There was a party in Pacific Palisades, California that I did not want to go to, but I knew there'd be some good outside issues, so I went. And about 1 a.m, my 12:31, my friend George came up with some little blonde and said, "Nancy, this is Jay. Jay, this is Nancy. She wants to walk on the beach, not safe at night, even in the Palisades. Go with her." And we took the footbridge over Pacific Coast Highway and we came down on the beach and we walked and talked for the next 5 hours, maybe made out a little bit, but we're truly mainly walked and talked. And the sun came up and it was amore prima noche, love at first night. And truly, in true addict form, we were inseparable. From that first morning, we were never apart, except for the little bit of time Nancy did in the penitentiary. And oh, no, it was me. The time I did in the penitentiary. Nancy never went to the penitentiary. And we loved each other so much. You know, Michael in The Godfather, when he fled to Sicily after killing the gangster and the cop, and he saw Apollonia, speechless, thunderbolt love, struck with a lightning bolt. I mean, that kind of love is what happened that first morning, and it never dimmed, never abated, never lessened. Oh God, I don't want to say it, but I will. And then 11 weeks to the day after our 42nd wedding anniversary, Nancy died in my arms in our home on hospice with pancreatic cancer. And man, she died at 23 and a half years sober. The ground went out from under me. Didn't know if I could stay sober, but was real clear that I wouldn't disrespect the program that gave Jay so much. that gave Nancy so much, that gave Jancy so much. We were the CA couple in West Hollywood, California, Jancy, Jay and Nancy. And so I reframed my pain as small price to pay for a lifelong love affair, small price to pay. And I took my wedding ring off and I took my ring in Nancy to JR. He's a custom jeweler over in Beverly Hills, and gave him the rings and said, melt them together and make me a new one that's thicker and wider. That's what I'm wearing today. So you kind of have Jancy speaking to you two for the price of one. And man, right up until Nancy's terminal exhalation, those feelings were just as intense, bright, burning, passionate as they were that first morning. Just so 44 years earlier. And I would love to tell you that those incredible feelings were matched behaviorally. I would love to tell you that, but it would be a lie. And we could not figure it out. It's like the fucking brakes are out. How do we stop? How do we stop? We can't stop that. And we don't know how to fix the brakes, and we don't know where the brake shop is. That was our marriage. And we loved each other so much, and we both engaged in behaviors that were so corrosive to a healthy, happy, joyous, romantic relationship. We lied, we cheated, we stole. We cheated in front of one another. We cheated behind each other's back. I was in part of the time I was a cocaine dealer, and she stole my cocaine and helped me look for it. I never knew that until the first time I heard her speak at a meeting. I thought that was just a myth, a joke about it. It's not. We were scorekeeping, selfish, self-pitying, self-righteous, immature, grandiose, arrogant, scorekeeping. I said it twice because it's so bad. Manipulative, unforgiving, disrespectful. I mean, I could go on for the whole 40 minutes about that set of characteristics that I bring and that Nancy brought into a relationship. Just heartbreaking. And it broke our hearts. I mean, there was some great makeup sex, but holy shit, the fights that preceded the great makeup sex. I don't know if yeah, they were worth it, but it would have been so nice to just have great sex without having the battles that went on, and the heartbreak and the frustration and the confusion and being so bewildered. And oh my God, it was so weird. And then we went to I think they call it a messianic temple. It's a Jews for Jesus temple. I'm not sure I understand all of that, but there was a Cocaine Anonymous meeting on South Beverly Drive in Beverly Hills, and it took place in this messianic temple. And I was exposed to the idea. I had 6 months. Nancy had 3 months. I was exposed to the idea that the 12 traditions were the instruction manual for relationships. And it blew me away. And Nancy and I got sponsors, and we worked sponsors, plural, not one, two. We each had one. And we worked the steps. But I want to tell you, we fell in love with and lived those traditions. And they changed that marriage. They gave us the tools to transform deep loving feelings into consistent loving behavior. It was absolutely amazing. And then we started helping other couples and doing a little workshop. And then AA had us do it as a fundraiser for different areas and districts. And CA had us do it at the conventions. And I mean, it was great. And then we did it all over. And then Nancy died. And then the lockdown happened. And I started doing it on Zoom all over the world. And people have just like fallen over, just like, I've been sober 43 years, and how come I've never heard of this? This would have saved my marriage. I mean, people are just blown away, and people keep saying, when are you going to write a book? And so I wrote the book. It came out last week. Yay. And it has like this wealth of stories and inventory and filters. And I mean, I'm so proud of it. And worked with the intellectual property committee of AA so that we could put the steps and traditions in it and not break. They said you can't use that photo on your cover of your book because it shows your face. You can't use your last name. It's like, I'll do whatever it takes. And the book is out and people get to use it now. And there are already couples groups forming based on going through the traditions of this book. So I'm going to talk about them a little bit. There's not very much time, but I can talk about a couple of them anyway. And, that first tradition and our common welfare comes first, not Jay's, not Nancy's, our common welfare. And the recovery of our marriage depends upon our unity. And I remember that I thought the tax man, I know they're a bunch of UK people, so the IRS, Internal Revenue, is a tax man. Here, I knew they were after me. They were going to seize the bank account, and they hadn't written a letter, which is what they do. But I knew because I know everything. I'm the ultimate authority. I'm the, oh God, know it all. And I rushed to the bank and I pulled all the money out. It was $9,800. It was 1989 that we were saving it for a down payment on a house, and I put it in my back pocket. And the next day I went for a motorcycle ride, and you know what happened, right? No, it didn't fall out of my pocket, but I ended up in front of Glendale Harley Davidson on my little Honda Shadow motorcycle, and in the window was a used red Harley Davidson Softail with a price tag of $9,800. And I knew that meant the God in whom I did not believe wanted me to have a Harley. But Jancy wanted a house. But Jay wanted a Harley. But Jancy wanted a house. And for the first time, I made a conscious decision to put the common welfare first. And I left the Harley in the window and the money in my pocket. And I putted home on my little Honda, put the money back in the bank, and we added to it over the next couple of years. And then we bought a house that we lived in until Nancy died. And I continued to live there until 29 months ago when I moved to Tupelo, Mississippi. And boy, life is so good here. It's birthplace of Elvis Presley, Northeast Mississippi, about 2 hours south of Nashville. And I couldn't be happier. And I'm starting to sound a little Southern, which I love. I was coming out of the dry cleaner the other day and they said, on Friday, they said, y'all have a good weekend. And I said, I will. And I went, what? Who said that? Will is one syllable. Where did I get this will? That's living in Tupelo. So we also develop filters for all these traditions. And if y'all don't hear anything else I say today, listen to this first tradition filter and start using it in any relationship, your romantic relationship, your family of origin, in the meetings, at work or school, with God, on the highway, with yourself, and it will change your life. Just this one tradition filter. Is what I'm about to say or what I'm about to do going to create greater separation or greater unity? And if it's greater separation, then I don't say it or I don't do it. And that could mean throwing someone the finger on the freeway, or it could just mean saying something that's mean or unneeded. Or, oh my God, honey, you're getting so fat. Look, long before you noticed it, my pants told me. I don't need you to point it out. Is this creating greater separation or greater unity? Do I sit in a meeting and just sigh and roll my eyes about a speaker that doesn't enchant me? What is my sarcasm towards Nancy? Where's my manipulation, my score? I mean, the depth of this one filter is absolutely amazing. And you can see it in your driving. Am I putting the common welfare, traffic's welfare first? When someone wants to come over, do I let them in? Do I give space to the car in front of me, or do I ride their tail? Do I glare at drivers? So much. And in my relationship with God, it's just so instrumental because I create a lot of separation from me and God. And I can ask that question all the time. Is what I'm about to say or what I'm about to do going to create greater separation from God or greater unity with God? Even in my prayer, I came in, I heard that first early sobriety, I heard people saying, "Thy will, not mine, be done." And I didn't like it. Not that I was so attached to my will, but it just felt separating. And I changed it for me to "Thy will and mine be one." And I'm not talking about God changing God's will to match mine, just "Thy will and mine be one." May I come into alignment with a godly way, a kind, loving way of thinking, speaking, and acting. And so even in my prayer, and if I'm sitting saying, "You fucking asshole," to me, "You're such a loser," then what am I saying about God's handiwork? And how much distance am I creating between me and God? Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So then there's step two. We're going to come to believe that I can be restored to sanity. It implies I'm insane. I am. I was when I got here. And so step two is great. It gave me a lot of hope. Came to believe a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Didn't give me any tools at all. And I come from one of those horrendous childhoods from age three on, with being locked in a pitch black closet, ritualistic torture, three adults raping me together, and for the 3 years from 3 to 6, and it shattered me. I lost everything: sanity, safety, security, innocence, trust, and a whole bunch more. And then I got reunited with my parents and periodically re-victimized. And then we moved to California. I was 15. A year later, I found drugs and alcohol, and they saved my life, kept me from suiciding, let me stay on the planet, but made me stupid. And that stupidity led to bad decision making. And that decision making put me in front of a power greater than myself. And he sentenced me on my first ever encounter with the criminal justice system. He sentenced me to double 5 to life in the penitentiary. And man, I didn't want to go because I had Nancy, but I had no choice. And I had no fear because I knew, not because I'm tough, but because I knew nothing I didn't know there was a difference between jail and prison. And 5 hours after I got there, coming up from chow that first night, 5 guys grabbed me and beat me almost to death, and gang raped me. And that's who I was until I got out. Once that happens in the penitentiary, that's who you are. And so when I got out, I was not a vision for you, just broken on every level and filled with rage and bitterness and blame and cowardice and irresponsibility and massive shame and PTSD. And I went right back to the lifestyle. And I went to school, and I got a lot of letters after my name, and a lot of letters, and became very successful in work in healthcare. At that time, I was a associate director of medical research at a children's hospital in Los Angeles. Nancy and I didn't have kids. We didn't like them. Thank God we didn't have them. And that's alcoholism. I don't like children, and I'm working at a children's hospital. That's insane. And I'm armed. And I've got cocaine in my pocket, and I've got a bottle of Kahlua in my desk at work. And I tell myself it's just because I like the flavor of Kahlua. It's like, it's a hospital. It's a children's hospital. What are you doing with a bottle of booze? Crazy. So I was insane. And when you've got PTSD, you keep looking over your shoulder, and you're hyper vigilant, and you need to control everything and everyone. It's the only way you can feel safe, and so if you would just do it, if you would just, Nancy and my landlord and my boss and my neighbor and my best friend and this idiot in front of me on the freeway, if you would just do it my way, I'd be okay, but you won't. And it makes me crazy. And that's my insanity. And step two gave me hope, but it didn't give me a tool. And when I step into tradition two, there's the tool. Jay, short version. Jay, one ultimate authority. It's not you. Stop acting like it. Longer version. Jay, there's one ultimate authority. It's a loving God. If you moved over and made a little room for God, God would come in. And with that God would come some sanity. And that's exactly what happened. I moved over just a little bit, and then just a little bit more, and then just till my whole right cheek was hanging off the edge of the chair, and the edge of the chair was in the crack of my butt, and there's this whole strip of naked chair. And every time I looked down, I could see that and know that I was making room for God. And God came in, and with God came some sanity. And the tradition goes on to say there's one ultimate authority. It's a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. So Nancy and I had to start having group consciences with God, and we did. And here's what it looked like, based on the idea that I see what I look for. I see what I look for. And so I would look for a loving God in Nancy. And when I looked for it, I saw it. And when I saw it, it changed how I spoke to her and how I spoke about her and how I engaged her. And now comes the hard part, because it's early sobriety and I hate me, but we see what we look for. And when I looked for a loving God in me, I would see it. And when I saw it, it changed how I spoke to myself and how I spoke about myself, and most importantly, how I offered myself. And from just these first two traditions, behaviorally, that marriage changed 120 degrees just from the first two traditions. And then I step over there into step 3 that says, it's a lot of words I can't remember. Made a decision to turn our will and our life, our thinking and our behavior over to the care of God as we understood him. And I just shorthand it because I'm, what do you call it, lazy. And my shorthand is, I'm going to do God's work, not God's job. I'm going to do God's work, not God's job. And I'm a hospice nurse. I've been a hospice nurse now for 33 years and a grief and loss counselor for 31 years. Actually, when I moved to Mississippi, 2 years ago, I stopped the nursing. And so now I just do grief recovery counseling. And it feels like God's work. It always has, working with the dying, working with the grieving. And I let God do God's job, and I do God's work. And that means I don't try and run the show. And I don't know if you all know the history of AA, but in the early years, they were so worried about what the public perception might be that they only wanted pure alcoholics. They were very conditional on who they allowed in. They didn't want queers, crackpots, fallen women, asylum inmates, prisoners, beggars, tramps, or thieves. The list is on page 140 in the 12 and 12. And my home group in Los Angeles wasn't in Los Angeles. It was West Hollywood, the west side of West Hollywood, also known as Boys Town, 90069. And honey, if we had ever gotten rid of the queers, the crackpots, and the fallen women, the room would have been empty instead of having 160 people every morning at 7:30 a.m. And finally, AA wised up and got the traditions in the early 50s and said, basically, we're not going to be conditional. Anybody can come in, beggars, tramps, anyone who has a desire to stop drinking can come in. So they stopped being conditional, and that's what the third tradition is about, is not being conditional. And that's who I want to be as a husband. I want to be loving and kind, regardless of how Nancy's feeling, acting, talking on any given day. It's not like I'll be loving and kind as long as you do what I want, when I want in the bedroom, as long as we see the movie I want to see, as long as we eat at the restaurant I want to eat it. No. My job is to show up as a husband and be honoring and honorable, passionate and compassionate, curious, courageous, consistent, playful, spontaneous, respectful, forgiving, and a host of other qualities, regardless of how Nancy behaves on any given day. It also means that I need to let go of scorekeeping, remembering every good thing I've ever done and every bad thing Nancy's ever done. Nancy, remember 7 years ago, you were wearing that yellow Mexican peasant blouse, and you walked into the living room and you said, and that really hurt my feet. It's like, Jay, it was 7 years ago. Shut up. Just shut up, man. God. It means I also have to allow what Nancy gives or gifts to be enough. sexually, financially, spiritually, emotionally. I allow what Nancy gives to be enough. And in doing that, it makes it safe for her to risk giving more. Incredible. We let go of being conditional in tradition 3 and 15 minutes. And then I get to step 4, which, there's not really any reason for me to do a step 4. At least that's what I thought, because when I got here, it was like, you know what? I'm not hurting anyone but me. And if you had the childhood I had, you would drink and use the way I did. I'm the victim here, but I take the courageous action anyway of writing a searching and fearless, a fact-finding and fact-facing, searching and fearless, fact-finding, fact-facing inventory of myself. And I find out that I had a part, I learn, I become aware of, sensitized to the fact that my behavior and my words affect others. And that prepares me to step into tradition 4 that talks about the couple's version. Each partner should be autonomous. Self-governing. That's what autonomous means. Self-governing, except in matters affecting the other partner or the couple as a whole. Absolutely amazing. Now I know what kind of things I need to talk to Nancy about before I move forward, and what ones I could kind of make my own decision. I'm nominated and chosen as Nurse of the Year nationally, and I'm standing there. Nancy, do you think the blue tie or the red tie? It's like, Jay, you're Nurse of the Year nationally. You're 50 years old. Just pick a tie. They're both beautiful. You don't need to. And then there are other things where I so need to, and there isn't time to go in. I've got some powerful stories about this 4th tradition, but there isn't time to tell them today. They're in the book. And tradition 5, oh my God, I love tradition 5. And it says, our primary purpose is to carry the message. And what is our message? It's love and tolerance. And to whom do we carry it? It just says the alcoholic who suffers. It doesn't say the drunk, homeless alcoholic living in the bushes outside the log cabin. It just says the alcoholic who suffers. So Nancy comes home. She's an interior plantscaper. It's fun work working with plants, but hard physically. You got to carry them. And she does the design, installation, and maintenance of plants in shopping centers and wealthy people's homes and banks and real estate offices. And she fights LA traffic going from one account to another. And she lifts the heavy plants, and she's blah, blah, blah. And she comes home and she's exhausted and her back hurts, and she's fought with traffic and her arms are full and she can't close the door. And so she kicks it and it slams. And I'm like, hey, what are you bringing that anger into my house for? Don't you know that I have a PTSD? I mean, it's usually dormant, but it's an incest related PTSD, and you could trigger it with that slam. Well, wait a minute. It's not mine. It's ours. It's not a house. It's a home. And what if it's not anger? What if I can reframe anger as a manifestation of Nancy's suffering? Then this tradition tells me that I need to let go of my judgment and criticism and replace it with mercy, with love and tolerance. And it's Nancy, so it's not hard. And now comes the hard part, because it's Jay and it's still early sobriety. And I hate Jay, and my usually dormant incest-related PTSD does occasionally get awakened. And when it does, it comes out in wonky behavior. And instead of saying, you piece of, I need to remember, without excusing myself from accountability or responsibility, I need to replace that judgment with mercy, because they're perfect opposites. The judgment comes from the head and mercy from the heart, and judgment wounds and mercy heals, and judgment separates and mercy unites, and judgment is touching pain with fear, and mercy is touching that same pain with love. And then we skip 6 and jump into 7 because of time. And I'll just tell you that 7th tradition where we talk about, we think it's about the money, and it's not that it isn't, but it's about so much more. And I don't know how y'all got here, but I got here shooting myself in the foot again and again in my marriage, in my health, in my finances, in my spirituality, in my joy, in every aspect of my life. I would go out and engage in behaviors. I'd cheat on Nancy. I'd overspend. I'd shoot cocaine and have a seizure. What could go wrong? And she was doing the same shit. And we justified it by pointing at each other and kept sabotaging. So here's this filter saved my life, the Tradition 7 filter. If I could just pause and ask this question, is what I'm about to say or what I'm about to do self-sabotaging or self-supporting? And if it's self-sabotaging, I don't do it. I don't say it. I don't spend it. I don't. So what I'm about to say or what I'm about to do, self-sabotaging or self-supporting, I absolutely love that. And it saved my life. I also had to be real clear that sometimes I need help. And Nancy grew up, 180 degrees from me. She grew up in a loving, supportive, non-abusive, stable, incredible home with an incredible family. So if my incest-related PTSD got triggered and I went to Nancy and said, hey, my incest is triggered. You got to sleep with me right now. I wasn't looking for solution or help. I was looking for distraction. Just let's distract me with some sex from my PTSD. No, that's self-sabotaging. That's not self-supporting. Nancy had nothing to offer other than, oh my God, honey, I'm so sorry. I love you, which didn't help. It was nice, but it didn't help. I needed to call a therapist or a sponsor or someone in program who's further along on the incest recovery path than I was at the time. And so that's my responsibility in being self-supporting, is going to someone who can actually provide realistic help. I don't go to Ralph's or the supermarket for a chainsaw. I don't go to Home Depot to buy milk. I don't go to Foot Locker for pastrami on rye. I don't go to Nancy for help with my incest because she can't relate. She knows nothing about it. She has no education, no experience, no solution. And then I step into step 8 and I do my little 3-column inventory. Who did I harm? How did I harm them? What were the character defects at play? And I become sensitized to, again, aware of my ability to harm others. And then I step into Tradition 8, and it's the one that not as many people are familiar with, and the exact wording is AA is Alcoholics Anonymous or Cocaine Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, though our service centers may employ special workers. What does that have to do with a marriage, with a relationship? Absolutely everything. So we're at the Monday night Beverly Hills meeting at La Cienega Park. The meeting ends. I'm kind of folding up some chairs and cleaning up the cake and the stuff. And Nancy's talking with this really nice couple. I'm not part of the conversation. She's just chatting with them. We're not going out to dinner with them, or she's just chatting. But I'm close enough to hear her say, oh my God, our favorite Italian restaurant's Benvenuto's at La Cienega in Santa Monica. No, it isn't. It's on the south side of Santa Monica, just west of La Cienega. And I see the hurt in Nancy's eyes, that I had spoken to her so harshly and done it in front of other people and was so desperate to be right that I was willing to make her wrong. Fuck. And I will tell you that right is the loneliest place I know. And I just said, I'm not going to do this again. And what was going on was Jay was acting like the professional. Because what's a professional? The expert, the know-it-all, who's absolutely certain, perfectionistic, rigid, intolerant, impatient, focused on the win, competitive, got to get the goal or the win. That's not who I want to be as a husband. I want to be the amateur who does it for fun and for free, who's cooperative, not competitive, who's curious. Honey, tell me more. Help me understand. Curious, not certain. Patient, tolerant, not impatient and intolerant. Flexible, not rigid. Focused on the journey, not on the win, not on the goal. What a difference that makes in your relationship. Holy crap. And then tradition 9 is so similar, that says CA ought never be organized. And I don't know about y'all, but man, I was so manipulative when I got here. And to me, when I hear manipulative, the first thing I think is organized, because that's what manipulation is. I'm trying to organize your thoughts, your words, your behavior to further my agenda or endorse my position. Let me say it again. I'm trying to organize your thoughts, your words, and your behavior to further my agenda or endorse my position. And here's the problem with that. Anything I get, whether it's in the bedroom or the boardroom, anything I get through manipulation is less satisfying than if I had earned it or someone had offered it as a gift. It just leaves bad taste in my mouth, you know? And not only that, when I'm manipulating, there's no room for humility, curiosity, trust, or faith. What if Nancy had something so much more sensational planned for this evening in the bedroom than what I was trying to manipulate her into? What if the selection committee has something so amazing for me, but I'm trying to get something that to get them to do something else? I haven't even considered that they would advance me to that. But no trust, no faith, and no curiosity, and no humility. And that's so not how I want to live my life. And, and then I step into step 10 and I do daily inventory. And Dennis F. talks about we either write inventory or we create it. I'm either going to take my inventory or I'm going to take yours. And I love that. So if I prepare myself and I do daily inventory, I'm ready to step into tradition 10 that says we have no opinion on outside issues. And in a marriage, it doesn't mean I have no opinion on outside issues, but the first thing I do is I get real clear on what they are. And outside issues are anything that isn't an inside issue. And I have 3 inside issues: my relationship with Nancy, my relationship with God, my relationship with recovery, and everything else is an outside issue. Everything else. And I may have an opinion on it, but it's not a hill I'm going to die on. We can agree to disagree. I think we're in the midst of a political election year here in the States, and we've got candidates and everybody's got an opinion. And I always think of these 2 talking heads, political talking heads, James Carville and Mary Matlin, and one is a staunch conservative and the other is a staunch liberal, and they disagree on every issue, and they often appear on TV shows together, and never once have I seen them be disrespectful to or disagreeable with one another. They stick to the intellectual points about the candidate or the issue. And that's what Tradition 10 is about, learning how to disagree without being disagreeable in my marriage. And knowing what the priorities are. What are those inside issues that are involatile, and what are the ones that we can agree to disagree? And then I think my time is up. Was that right? I got 1 minute left, or I have 1 and 5? 1. So what I'll say is my favorite tradition, and I talk long on this one, and I have a couple 2-hour versions of this talk coming up. Maybe I'll put it in the chat for y'all in the UK. in the next 2 months. But the filter for Tradition 11, and Tradition 11 is the one that says our public relations policy is based on attraction, not promotion. And we always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. And so I always ask, as my loving God stands at my side, would that God find what I'm about to say or what I'm about to do to be attractive? And if I don't believe a loving God would find my words or my actions attractive, then I don't say them or I don't do them. Got it. And I just want to say that if you all start applying these traditions, using them as a tool, trying to learn to use them as a set of tools, not 12 individual tools, they will change every relationship you have. And this is all new stuff for most of you. There are a few of you that have heard me before, but the idea behind this isn't to beat yourself up for not using these tools better or sooner. It's to start to incorporate this incredible set of new tools. And is it okay? Nod your head. Can I put my book on the thing? Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna put the cover on there. If you go to Amazon, you can find it. You have to enter the title exactly as it is and my name, the author's name, exactly as it is on the cover. Or go to UK Amazon, those of you in the UK, and you'll get it delivered real quick. But you have to go to UK Amazon, just not regular Amazon. Does it make sense? Anyway, I'm so grateful to be here. I love y'all. I love Cocaine Anonymous. My name is Jay Westbrook. I am an alcoholic, and that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. Well, Steve B. Addict. Jay, where are you? There you are. Or Jancy, I'll call you, Jancy. I'm back from relapse, but I'm on step 9. I've really thrown myself into this. And basically, you take me back. I mean, I got my relationship back on track. She's come back. I met Megan. We had our first kiss on Santa Monica Pier, in Laos Hotel, overlooking the pier. So I've just found out I was riddled with jealousy, riddled with fear, and basically, and that sets the ball rolling. And it's our relationship, and for the last 6 years, I've just been accusation after accusation. And you've just taught me so much. It's just so mad how it's just happening right now. It's happening quickly for me because I've had the gift of desperation. But my question to you, I mean, I'm not too familiar with the 12 traditions. I mean, do I finish with the 12 steps first and then look into the 12 traditions, or should it run parallel together?
Yeah, there is no right answer for that. You know, your life kind of depends on you're doing the steps. You're already 3/4 of the way through. Finish the steps, man. Or finish the steps, but go ahead and start the traditions. And you're going to work them if you stay, you're going to work them multiple times through your sober life, both sides of the street. So we'll work the steps again and again, work the traditions again and again. So, if you die of an overdose, you probably won't have a relationship to heal with the 12 traditions. So make sure you're staying sober. Don't leave 5 minutes before the miracle. Don't leave 5 minutes after the miracle. And do the work on both sides of the column. The 12 steps, the 12 traditions, and amazing things will happen with both.
Thanks for your question, Steve. Alina, would you like to come in with your question?
You need to unmute, Alina.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the tech support. Hi, Jay. Thank you for opportunity to hear you today. And it's amazing how you covered so many traditions in fairly short amount of time. I took copious notes because it's just so much depth in it. So here's my dilemma. Here's my question. and I have hopefully just the right guy. Because as you're exploring these traditions and relationships, I think there's no greater opportunity to see how your program is or how your relationships are than in a long-term romantic relationship. So that's why I feel like you're qualified. How do you navigate experience in a romantic relationship or even close friendship that means a lot to you, where you are really improving your communication and you're taking a lot of pause and you're making sure you pay attention to the other person, and you're being as much as possible in love and tolerance, but within a certain amount of time you start to hear that the other person is kind of running you over without even noticing that you are trying to be there for them. Basically, how do you practice these traditions without feeling an experience of being a doormat? I hope that question makes sense.
Okay. Multiple answers to that. Number one, be a beacon of attraction. Work the traditions in your life and in how you behave in the relationship, and they will notice. Nancy didn't want to get sober. She had no interest. And I went, and she got, lonely. And so she started going with no intention of getting sober, and she caught alcoholism through her ears. And on my 90th day, she stood up and stayed sober the rest of her life. So work the traditions because they make you a better person, and people around you will notice it. That's one answer. Number two is get the book, open it as a couple, look at the tradition, read the little stories, and then go to the back where the inventory questions are. And the two of you start writing inventory, share it with one another or share it with your individual sponsors. But you'll get insight, you'll get change, you'll get tools that will empower that change. And then number three is to kind of take a quick look and say, how are you treating you? Are you behaving in ways towards yourself that send a message to others that this is an okay way to treat you? I was working with a guy shared at the cabin one day, a very successful, wealthy, very wealthy, educated man, and he was in his 40s, and he broke down crying, and he said, my whole childhood and tween and teen years I was bullied mercilessly, and now I'm in my 40s, I'm a successful attorney, and he says all those years of being called faggot and queer and fairy, and now I'm in my 40s and they're still bullying me, and then the meeting ended, and I went up and I said, I'm so sorry you're suffering and so pleased you're struggling. Can I ask you a question? Are you a bully? And he got really pissed. Didn't you fucking listen to me? I'm the one who's bullied. I said, I'm so sorry. Can I ask you one more question? He goes, what? I said, do you ever bully yourself? And he got ready to respond, and his eyes just welled up with tears and they streamed down his face. And he said, all the time. And I said, then last question, is it possible, and I could be wrong, but is it possible that in bullying yourself, you are sending a message to other people that this is an acceptable way to treat you? And he got it, and he changed it. And interestingly, people stopped bullying him. He changed the people. You can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. Think about that one for a minute. And that's what he did. And it became an unacceptable way to treat him. And those people who wanted to treat him that way fell away. And the others championed his growth. That's it.
Thank you for your question, Alina. We've got 3 more hands up and not loads of time left, so we're going to cut question time to ask a question down to a minute. If you could just come in quickly to ask a question. Next, we've got Bryony.
Hello, Bryony Alcoholic. Thank you so much for that. It was absolutely amazing. I found myself really welling up, and it's just what I needed today. I've been struggling in my 10-year relationship as of recently. You know, I'm a year into recovery and I thought everything was going fine. But recently we've just been at each other's throats. You know, when you said about keeping scores and things like that, you know, and I'm very aware of when I'm being manipulative, which I am a lot, and I'm very aware of all the things that you said, but I just can't seem to put it into practice. You know, have you got any advice on how to sort of pause more and put it into practice, even though you're really self-aware of what you're being like?
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard when you don't have an outline or a framework or a blueprint. You know, it's like saying, well, how do I get sober and become a healthier person? I don't know. Oh, wait, here's a blueprint. It's called the 12 steps. So when you have something like that to follow, that has illustrations and examples, and you hear stories, oh, the jaywalker, and he kept running out and getting hit. It helps. So the same is true with these traditions will give you the tools to transform deep loving feelings into consistent loving behavior. Your partner is not your enemy. He or she is your choice. You can change that choice if you want to. You can both choose to get healthy. You can choose to get healthy. But that's how you do it, honey, is you get a blueprint. And in this case, if it's relationships, the 12 traditions are your blueprint. And just so everybody knows, I put the book in at 47 minutes after the hour, if you scroll up in the chat. And I just put a couple minutes ago the other 2-hour workshops I'm doing on this. So it's all in the chat.
Thank you, Bryony. Josh, would you like to come in with your question?
Yeah, super fast. Josh Baker, I'm an addict. Hey, Jay, great to see you, man. I got the book right here, baby. I got the roadmap to success.
There
Hey,
you go.
I got a question for you. What do you miss most about your wife?
My wife. There isn't a most. I mean, she is so alive in my life. I talk about her. I've done my own grief recovery healing on her, so that when I talk about her, it's usually joyous and tender and sweet and loving and not depressing and morose and heavy. But I, I could spend the next hour telling you what I miss, you know, her touch, her scent, her voice, her viewpoint, her laughter, her sense of humor, her intelligence, her sensitivity, the sex, the lovemaking, the little stuff we disagreed on, our one ongoing thing. Don't let the coonhounds out before 11 on a Sunday because their voices are so loud it'll wake the neighbors. And she let him out like at 10:30 and said, if they bay and howl, I'll bring them back in. And I'm saying, but the neighbors will already be awake. And she said they'll go back to sleep. That was our big fight, our ongoing, you know, and if that's as bad as it gets, I miss it so much. So lots and lots and lots. You're so cute, Ebony. Oh my God. Andy, come on in.
Yeah, just quickly, thank you, Chair, Jeff. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I needed that tonight. I've just been away on first like holiday since I've been in recovery, and today I should be really happy because I'm 8 months in, 245 days. But the last couple of days I've been real flat. I'm between jobs and I've got into a bit of self-will, and it hasn't gone my way. So I've gone into self-pity, and usually on I call it like a gas boiler. My flame's fully lit all the time. It's been really low last few days. I went to a meeting last night. Great meeting. Come home. Got up this morning. Still a little bit flat. On here tonight. Just done me the world of good. How do you get over when your flame goes down a little bit? Cause I like mine fully lit all the time with this stuff, and it ain't gone out. It'll never go out because I won't let it. But just to keep your fire and your energy going. I don't know if it's my diet or what I'm doing. Am I doing too much? All right, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah. How long are you sober, Andy?
8 months.
Okay. So all a newcomer, man. Just call someone who's got 4 days or 6 days and ask them how their life is going, and then listen to where their head is at and how it works. And you might find yourself being real grateful. Sometimes that's better than calling a sponsor, because what your sponsor is going to say, and and get into action and do but hearing the insanity of a newcomer's head will push you into action so that you don't end up picking up the pipe, picking up a drink, and ending up where they're at. No situation so bad that a drink or drug can't make it worse. No situation so good that it can't be destroyed with a drink or a drug. Can't talk. Anyway.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Andy, for your question. That brings us to the end of Q&A time, but not quite the end of